Today on the podcast, Tyler S. Elliott stops by to talk about the Hedgerow Theater production of It's a Wonderful Life, a live radio play by Frank Capra. On stage through December 29th, here is my interview with Tyler S. Elliott for Hedgerow Theater's It's a Wonderful Life. And welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I'm in the virtual studio to talk about Hedgerow Theater Company's production of It's a Wonderful Life by Frank Capra, directed by Pete Pryor. Pete Pryor is directing.
Pete Pryor, yeah.
There's always magic going on at Hedgerow, so it's great to have a representative from Hedgerow today. We're here with Tyler S. Elliott. Tyler,
hello.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's crazy because I've known of you and I've seen your work over the years, and I can't believe it's the first time we've had a chat. So welcome to the podcast.
I was like, I'm just so excited to hear that you're doing all of this cool podcasting work. And I was like, I'm bummed that we haven't, had a chance to do this before. So
well, now whenever you have a show, you let me know.
I was like, you'll be the first person I contact. I'll be like, hey, you got space for me on the podcast?
Absolutely. Cool. So for our listeners who may know you but may know of you, tell us a little bit about Tyler.
Sure. My name's Tyler. We'll start there.
Hold on, let me take a note. Hi.
Yeah, right. Tyler. T-Y-L-E-R. T-S Elliott for all my poet fans at home.
Yes.
I have been doing theater professionally now since probably right around 2016. Graduated from college from Swarthmore, so I'm sort of a transplanted local, we'll call it. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, but then I went to school at Swarthmore, so 25 minutes on the SEPTA line from Philadelphia proper, and have sort of found a real home here in the community of Philadelphia. There was a brief time I was working in casting and sort of getting my feet on some sort of ground coming out of internships in college with Telsey, and sort of quickly learned that Philadelphia was a place that was conducive to growing as an artist without sort of the cutthroat level of theory that I think New York inevitably brought, and sort of experiencing it from the casting side in New York. Philly seemed like the natural move. So when I had a couple of actor friends that were thinking about coming over here, I was quick to jump on board the ship and haven't left since.
Great. So being that you are from New York and you have that kind of in your space, you're a theater artist in New York, and you see all of this as kind of like the way. Like, was that your mindset? Like, next stop, Broadway?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. My sort of story goes, as far as my relationship with theater, definitely has its ups and downs, as I think, most of us do. When I went to Swarthmore, the intention was actually to drop theater entirely. I had done it for relatively long time. It felt like that was definitely sort of my mindset pre-college, was that there was sort of the natural progression of steps that one followed if they wanted to be considered successful as an actor, whatever that means now. And so I was at a performing arts middle school, actually. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I was at a school called Mark Twain. It's IS 239 out in Coney Island, and I was doing theater classes 8 times a week as part of my normal academic curriculum. And so that was super exciting. And so for me, I had seen Fame, and I knew that the natural progression was to go to LaGuardia, the performing arts high school where you went if you wanted to make it. And then it was Juilliard after that. And it's a funny story, and my parents will always tell this one differently, but sort of the joke that we have in my house is that I applied to LaGuardia. It was this long, sort of arduous audition process, and ended up being accepted, but also was accepted to this sort of tiny little private school in Brooklyn Heights called St. Anne's, where my father was an alum, actually. And my parents sort of sat me down, the 8th grader Tyler, and said, you get to choose, right? Like, do you want to go to St. Anne's? There's a lot of sort of accolade about like, being a member of the St. Anne's community, but also, LaGuardia, we understand, is a big dream of yours. And I slept on it, and I came back to them in the morning and I said, I want to go to LaGuardia. And they said, great, you're going to St. Anne's. So I ended up, I was sort of rounded out actually in St. Anne's. I still did a ton of theater while I was there, but also like really fell in love with the sciences and had a whole love relationship with Milton and literature, and sort of just expanded a lot of my world. And it's something that I tell so many students now when I teach theater, that like sort of the best route to being an actor is to sort of round your education out, to sort of grab whatever you can and to experience as much as you can, because it'll only inform you more as an actor. So when I went to Swarthmore, I was actually a pre-med student with the intentions of sort of not doing theater at all. And my first year was tough. And I was put in touch through a friend actually with the head of the theater department at Swarthmore, who is no longer there, Alan Karski, who has become like a mentor of mine, who is sort of like, you're a little bit late after my freshman year, but we can put you on sort of a fast track if you're serious about it, to get a degree and major in theater. And I think as soon as I started doing it, I was like, oh, this is why I was sort of unhappy. It was like that I just wasn't doing the real thing that I loved. I ended up graduating from Swarthmore with a degree in biology and theater, if you could believe that. But it's a true liberal arts student.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think Swarthmore very much changed my idea of what the correct path was to being successful, right? That it sort of altered my idea of Broadway not being the end goal. Mm-hmm. That so much of it became more about collaboration. I learned a ton about the beauties and benefits of doing things like devised theater and Polish theater, and I think my whole world was expanded from sort of like, sorry, those two dogs that will bark anytime somebody's at the door. Sort of expanded my idea of what I would consider to be sort of a more narrow American canon of saying, okay, well, you have to go here, then you have to get sort of this, then you get your MFA, then you go to Broadway, and then sort of the only way to do it. And a lot of that is sort of informed why I came to Philly in the first place, was sort of seeking something that a city that had roots in devised theater. A lot of the Pig Iron alumnus come from Swarthmore, and so I just really fell in love with that world, and the collaborative aspect of being in Philly theater and being able to do sort of shows that are important to me is a benefit that I wouldn't trade for the world. I mean, truly, in so many ways, that feels like my proudest accomplishments, is like getting to tell the stories and work with sort of the actors that I admire, and being able to put on productions that I believe in. And so there's, Broadway's there in the back of my head. New York will always be there in the back of my head as a true sort of, New York, self-prescribed New York piece of garbage. But I will always love New York. And I think that sort of dream exists forever. It just doesn't sort of define it as the only, say.
Yeah, great. So, you're in New York, where everyone supposedly dreams to be. So you end up in Swarthmore, and you walk away with a biology and a theater degree.
It is true.
Great. And then, so now you're here, and we're happy to have you here. So great.
Happy to be here.
So tell me how. What was your introduction to Hedgerow Theater? How'd you make it there?
It's interesting because Hedgerow is in Moylan Rose Valley, which is on what is now called the Media Wawa line, mm-hmm. Which goes by Swarthmore. So I actually see my alma mater every day on my way to rehearsal because it passes right by the train station. But Media Theater as well. But Hedgerow Theater was sort of embarrassingly not so much on my radar for the first couple of years that I was in Philadelphia. I think I was pretty city-centric as far as what existed in the world. And found that actually sort of what I would consider a theater taking its real first serious chance on me as an actor, as sort of a no name with like no history in the city yet, was People's Light, which is out in Malvern, which is how I met Marcy. Marcy was the head of community outreach at People's Light. And so I did Diary of Anne Frank out there in 2017 or 2018. And a lot of the work was really focused on community outreach and like sort of, how do we get the community involved in a production like this one? So we worked very closely with Marcy. And I sort of immediately fell in love with just the way that she works and operates. I think she is so like unbelievably passionate about the work that she does and so generous and caring about the people that she works with that I was just enamored by the whole project. I ended up doing another show at People's Light that Marcy was also sort of doing community outreach with, a show called Dot by Coleman Domingo, where we were testing sort of accessibility and we were doing all this work to make sure that sort of like audiences of different abilities had access to the show, whether that meant that they were coming in early to hold tactile props before the show started, whether that meant that they were meeting us as characters before the show, whether that meant we tested a program with sort of accessibility glasses that held the subtitles in them, which was sort of like a new project that I think is still picking up quite a bit of traction around the country. So that was my first experience with Marcy. So that sort of spun around. So when Marcy took over as artistic director at Hedgerow, she reached out to me as part of her first season to do a show called The Weir. And it was one of those things where I was just wrapping up a contract out in Boise, Idaho, and I got this email from Marcy, and I had heard sort of through the grapevine that she had taken over as artistic director, but I got this email that was like, we'd love for you to submit. And for me, I'm like, I mean, you could have sent me any script. Marcy will be embarrassed to hear that, but I truly think that Marcy could have asked me to do any text and I would have done it happily. I think because of sort of how rewarding the work she had done around the shows at People's Light had been for me. And so I submitted the tape without a second thought. The Weir ended up being the first show I did at Hedgerow, and the rest is history. But it was truly, I mean, that experience, even Marcy was in The Weir with me, so it was cool to also like work with Marcy as an actor, but Marcy as an artistic director carries all of sort of the brilliant things that she had as a director of community outreach and has just supplanted them into her role now as the head of Hedgerow.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. It's always nice to know everyone's journey, because like I was thinking about when I first learned about Hedgerow Theater, I was a student at the Art Institute of Philadelphia, which doesn't exist anymore. But I used to work across the street at Liberty Place. And they used to have, back when you bought a map that would live in your car for a year and then you bought another one, I used to work at Rand McNally, and one of our coworkers was a member of Hedgerow. It was a woman named Diane. I forget her last name right now, but I remembered, like, I didn't expect her to have a theater background. I don't know why I didn't assume that she would have one, but it was at that moment that I realized, like, wow, the reach of our theater community and its longevity. Thinking about over the years, there have been so many people that I've come across who have spent time at Hedgerow, like cut their teeth at Hedgerow, and like they have specific training that they've been carrying throughout their career because of their time at Hedgerow. And so that's just wonderful. And
they just celebrated 100 years, I believe, right? And like the theater has been around, and a place for actors and directors and designers to cut their teeth for a long time now. It's a historic place in a lot of ways. So.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's not easy to like maintain these organizations these days. It almost never was. And even now there's just more challenges. And so it's always great to see that, through the various iterations, like they had long-term leadership and then a transition. And it's like, how do you keep that in the history of the legacy of the organization intact? Right. And so I'm glad that it's still there and it's in its current iteration, and, hope great things to come as well. So, yeah. So now now we move to the the show of the moment at
The
Hedgerow.
time.
Yeah. It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a
live
wonderful life.
radio play.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a podcaster, so I'm always a huge fan of a radio play. I love the concept of the audience feeling like they're sitting on a couch or like some comfy space in the studio. And that's what I love that the radio plays do for us and give us that. And the classics are the ones that we did radio plays for, because they were on the radio. And it is also just interesting that they're still as engaging. They're still as popular as they were when we were just listening on the radio.
Agreed. I think, to be completely frank, I think radio plays were another sort of style of theater that I wasn't really familiar with until college. And I've always sort of viewed them as, sort of this like serendipitous challenge that they sort of set themselves up for something that is quite difficult in a lot of ways, but also resonates so beautifully in a lot of ways as well. I think it's one of my sort of favorite conversations with any theater person. And, whenever you want to have the whole podcast just about this topic, you'll let me know, or just a chat.
Absolutely.
But it's like, like, what are the values of theater? Like, why do we do theater still? Like, who cares in a lot of ways? As craft as that sounds, I'm like, with the advent of film and sort of the growth of film, like, what makes theater special now? Like, what can theater do that film cannot do? What can radio do that theater cannot do? And sort of like, how do those worlds marry? And how do we sort of take and use the secrets from each sort of style to create new stuff? Radio plays become a strange marriage of like old school radio programming and the ability to watch, from the comfort of a comfy couch, live theater. So I think there's a challenge to it, because the concern is how do we separate a radio play now from just a reading even, right? Like, how do we make this feel like a finished product instead of sort of a inventive experimental space even?
Yeah. It's also interesting.
I get nervous around them, but it was cool to do this for sure.
It's also interesting how the medium, the mindset was that the medium would be replaced, but the medium actually supports. So we still promote theater on radio. We still
agreed.
If we have the funds, we promote theater on television.
Right.
So I think there's a support and complement to all of them now. Like, case in point, there are many theater goers and lovers and just people with hearts that are going to see Wicked right now. And
I just saw it. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh my gosh,
it's my job.
Oh, I cried so much.
I like to say I go to movies on nerd nights, which is like the day before the opening day.
Right, like a 11:30 p.m. show type.
Like hardcore fans, yeah. But there's the story is expanded visually and cinematically on this big screen, but then it's also big in the at the Gershwin, because that's a grand stage, but it's also a huge book.
Agreed.
And so
agreed.
All these it doesn't make sense to say I read the book, so I'm not going to go to the musical. It's like,
right. I'm like, I read the book, therefore I have to go see the musical, and I've seen the musical, therefore I have to see the movie. I agree with you entirely. I think like a lot of the sort of like emotional impact of seeing the film was that so much of it felt like a love letter to the musical. Yeah. And I have sort of such fond memories of being a kid, and like, Wicked being one of the first musicals I ever saw. And now sort of being able to complete the full circle of saying like, wow, like, look, we're in a movie theater watching it. Yeah. And sort of the expanded, in a lot of ways, I think like theater runs into the challenge of accessibility, which is sort of going to return to like why I love the work that Marcy has always done with accessibility. And that the film opens another in route to being able to experience the story that is more accessible for a lot of folks. That is, that there are theaters nearby, and you can go on nights where you pay $5 for a ticket and you get to have the same feeling that I had when I was, 9 years old and watching it on stage. And there's a beautiful aspect to that as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting that so the radio show is set in the 40s, just like the movie.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, and so to have them kind of in the same spot. The thing is, like, I think about it, It's a Wonderful Life is in the canon of holiday movie marathons. Like,
agreed.
This is one you can just park it on a channel and you can watch it all day.
It's true.
Along with like A Christmas Story, like
White
Trains and
Christmas.
Automobiles,
I'll like throw an Elsa in there, get Harry Potter involved at this
point. Oh my
point.
God, you can watch all 7. Well, 8, count 2 parts.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but these things, they're timeless, and so you're thinking like, what is this season without It's a Wonderful Life? If I haven't experienced it at all, like, what's wrong with me?
True. It's funny that you say that also, because I'm like, I don't know, how much you know about even the history of the Frank Capra movie, but like, the film was sort of a flop when it came out. I think it was nominated for like quite a few Academy Awards, but still like commercially was not successful, and sort of marked Frank Capra's sort of like downfall, that people were like, oh, he's just not as good as he used to be. And that the sort of resurgence in popularity and association that we have with It's a Wonderful Life and Christmas time comes because, like, in the mid 70s, it became free access. It became open source, and so just all of these programs, TV channels, and movie theaters were just like, oh well, this is an easy way for us to just put a Christmas thing on that we're not paying royalties and dues on, and it like picked up a whole new following. Again, it becomes an accessibility thing of just like everybody had access to it.
Yeah,
and there was a realization, or at least a resurgence in the love for it, and love for sort of its association to the Christmas season.
Yeah, and that's also what's interesting too. If you do a quick search online, you'll find out that the budget for that film was about $3 million. It made a little bit more of that in the box office. Can you even breathe for $3 million?
Right. I'm like, now it's $3 million. I was like, yeah, right.
It's $1 million to even talk about an off-Broadway show. To even talk about it, like,
all right,
to even have this meeting,
the
unless you have $1 million secured.
It's true.
But yeah, that's a thing we have to think about now, and in a way kind of let ourselves off the hook a bit, because in the past there were limited options. Like, technology has given us an abundance of distraction, and so sometimes we're like, there's only 20 people in this show, and we can seat 100, for example. And they're just like, I don't know, what are we doing wrong? We're not doing anything wrong.
We're not doing anything wrong. We're just up against 5,000 times the normal competition.
Options, and the thing is, they're not going anywhere. We just have to stay our course. The people who want to engage with live theater will engage with live theater.
I agree.
And I think it's sometimes you have to just, I think that's why it's so valuable for us in the community to just champion the work, the fact that the work exists. We should all be, in some ways, a part of the conversation, because people who are not diehards like we are, could overhear conconversations that we have.
It's true.
They can. What was that you were talking about?
Like, what is it? Summertime? Like, where's that happening?
How do you get out there?
I am right near there. Exactly. It's just a little spark.
Yeah. Just a fun thing to think about for getting out to Hedgerow. So I'll tell you, in the past, when I went to see a show there, I think it was a Barrymore nominator, and I had never been there before. So I take the train and I get off at Rose Valley, I believe, that station, and I'm like, I don't know how to get there from here, and it's risky if you're not familiar with it.
There's not a lot of sidewalks. You're not wrong.
So in that time, I called the theater and I said, "Hi, I'm at the train station, and I'm wondering." And they almost cut me off. They're like, We'll be right there.
Really?
Yeah,
I love that.
and somebody came to pick me up. I was like,
so
oh my
amazing.
God, that's so great. And I was
That's
just
incredible.
like, this company, like before I've even seen their show, they've already rolled out the red carpet. And
Right.
yeah,
That's
so
so cool.
and
I
I
will
know they
say,
made it
and your
easier to get
listeners
there
can have
now.
this, but there is like a forest path.
A path, yeah.
Yeah. And so if you're ever out there and remember this conversation, I'm like, seek the forest path out or call me and I'll tell you how to get
Yes.
there, because it's like one of my favorite walks ever. Like it's just like beautiful, sort of like cut through the woods path. That now at this point I've taken so many times. That like leads almost directly from the train station to the back of the theater.
Yeah, yeah. So thanks for keeping us safe, Hedro. So tell what character do you play in the show?
Oh gosh, what characters don't? It'd be easier to tell you what characters I don't play.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, like there are 5 actors in the show. Christopher Patrick Mullen, who plays George Bailey, the hero of the story, the Jimmy Stewart, the guy that everybody knows, the iconic voice. Mary Lee, who plays Mary, sort of the ingenue love interest, and then the remainder of the cast, or the remainder of the movie's cast, is now split between Kennedy, who plays all of the female parts, and Brian Anthony Wilson and myself, who split all of the guy parts. So off the top of my head, and I'm probably forgetting some, I play Freddie Fillmore, who is sort of like the radio station guy, right? Within the world of telling It's a Wonderful Life, there is also the radio world, the host of the show, the MC, if you will. And then Freddie Fillmore plays Peter Bailey, George's father, Ed in the bank, Nick the bartender, Mr. Potter the evil banker, Ernie the taxi driver, both of George Bailey's children's sons, Joseph the archangel who talks to Clarence and operates sort of the narrator within It's a Wonderful Life. Who am I missing? I'm like, right? I'm just like, and then like various crowd noises, if you will, sort of like maintaining and keeping the world alive around the character voices.
So listeners, what you just heard is the reason why this is a radio play.
Exactly. And it is just as insane and fun as it sounds, as far as Tyler doing just endless character voices and just really flexing his character voices.
So thinking about the film and the play in general, like are there moments in the piece as it's been presented over the years that resonate more with you, or like key moments that you never forget, or quotable lines?
Sure. So I must admit, the film is my mom's favorite Christmas movie. So we watch it every year on Christmas. So even when I got the call, I was like, I'm off book. I know it. And I'm like, I just know the film so well. Like even during rehearsals, it's just playing in my head. Yeah. And the cast will tell you the same thing, but there are just moments where the cast will say lines that just sound exactly like the movie, and your heart just like leaps out of your chest if you're a fan, because you just go like, oh, like I see it. Like I'm watching these scenes play out for me. So I'm like, to pick a favorite is tough, and I'm a little bit spoiled because of how much experience I have with the story itself. The bit in the beginning where Mary like whispers into his bad ear and their kids, and she goes, George Bailey, I'll love you till the day that I die. I love that line. I think it's so beautiful. And then, they end up together and it's a whole romance story. I will say I have a ton of fun playing Mr. Potter, who is sort of the villain of the story. I think the voice is so iconic and so much fun to do. There's one line towards the end where George Bailey's kind of like running around Bedford Falls, and he's just going, Merry Christmas, and Merry Christmas, the old building alone, and Merry Christmas. And in the film, there's a bit where he like he's in the window of Mr. Potter's office, and he goes, Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter. And in the script, in the play script, it goes to the next scene after that. But in the film, Mr. Potter kind of like looks out the window and he goes, Happy New Year to you in jail. And it's like, for whatever reason, it's one of my favorite lines. And so when you come see the show, when anybody comes and sees the show, that line is in the show now because I like advocated for it, because I was kind of just like, Mr. Potter's line, like one of my favorite lines in the movie, it got cut. Do you think like maybe we could squeeze it back in? And like, oh yeah, let's get it back in here.
Cool.
And so it's like even in my audition tape when I sent it, I like cheekily squeezed that line into it. Even in my cut, I was just like, I just want to do the line because I love the line so much. And a couple of days ago, we were doing the show, and this happens all the time, but there was a couple, right in the center, maybe in the first row, and I'm watching this woman watch the show, and you can tell that she, I don't know, sort of love for the movie. You felt a dog for a minute. I can see her sort of mouthing words along with us, right? I'm like, she just knows it. And so when I go up to do the, Happy New Year to you, she's mouthing it with me, and I mean, I almost broke into tears because I was like, you love the line the same way I love the line, and I want to like walk up to her just to be like, I put it back in like it wasn't even in the script to begin with, like goofy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's stuff like that. There's so many iconic lines from this movie, particularly for me and sort of my family, that it's hard to pick just the one.
Yeah.
That is definitely like one of the lines that I giggle about because of how it exists in the story now.
When I see the show, when you hit that line, I'm gonna be the
Don't you forget. You stand up, say it with me. I'll point right at you. I'll point right at you and do it with you.
I'm just gonna give a single ha.
Yeah, it's a ha. There it is.
You're like, he's totally look around. Cool. Well, the piece is timeless. Like, we're definitely gonna watch the movie several times,
right?
So, but to see it live and in radio play form, it's always so enjoyable. I love like live Foley, and I love seeing, the cast is kind of like in their moments of rest, like the little breaks that you can see them sort of milling about. Yeah,
great.
Yeah, because it's a play. It's so insider because like these are actors playing the characters, but like we're outside watching them prepare for the play that we're about.
Agreed.
So it's a play.
I think even like during the rehearsal process, we always sort of joked that, like that you could fine tune it by closing your eyes, and that you can experience it two ways throughout the show by just closing your eyes and hearing it and feeling what it would sound like just as a radio play, right? Like just having all the sounds and voices exist sort of and letting the pictures play in your head. And then you can open your eyes and experience it completely differently and watch the Foley being done live and sort of watch the life of the actors around the microphones as they are sort of bouncing back and forth and changing the way that their body is shaped or the accent or tone of their voice to create the whole world with just the five of us. So like that part is so exciting and like so much fun every day and night to put on. So yeah. And I imagine the aesthetic, the rustic aesthetic of Hedgerow itself lends to the overall very much so feeling and experience of being in that space. Yeah, I feel like the aesthetic of Hedgerow is also good for White Christmas. Oh, agreed. It's funny that you say that. One of my castmates, Kennedy, White Christmas is her favorite Christmas movie. The old Bing Crosby. But I'll tell you, agreed. We joked about it, where it's like, this is perfect. Yeah. When I first started, when I first got involved in theater seriously, the first time was in 4th grade. I read 2 lines in a play, but when I got into high school, every Christmas play I would play. There's a song from White Christmas called "Christmas in Killarney," and it's a silly song, and so I would play that song as the opener to our Christmas show. Amazing. Every year. So it's like how these exist. I mean, like, this is the beauty of it. This is the beauty of holiday shows, I think, in general, is that, like, just we all carry our own, like, small little lovely memories of the holidays. Yeah. And to have it played out in front of us is just rewarding in a way that is hard to describe. Yeah. I also, and I think I still have it, I have an ornament, I believe, I have an ornament that was given as a gift for that show.
and it's
I gotta show you. I
hilarious.
was like, hold on, wait. I know that. I was like, this camera just for us, right? Give me 2
Yeah.
seconds. Wait, I'm gonna pull you an ornament and show you just because I think it's so good on my tree downstairs. I'm like, I don't even know if my mic's gonna cut out, but
I still hear you.
yeah. So, Mary Lee, one of the castmates of the show, sort of as a opening night gift, we all had sort of boxes in our station, and this is and it hangs on my tree. I just pulled it from my tree, but this is the ornament, and this is maybe another quote, the sort of big famous one that everybody will know is every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wing. But it's like, a little silver bell, and it says, it's a wonderful life there in the little heart.
Oh, wow,
and so
that's
it's like,
great.
yeah, so this is on my tree now. But yeah, it's the small things, and I'm like, how lovely.
If you can take a picture, send that to me.
Yeah,
I'll put it in
absolutely.
the show notes in our
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So, it's this time of year where we start reflecting on the year as it has led up to this point, and we start thinking about next year. And what are your thoughts on the year that is coming to an end, and the year that is looming?
Sure, I think, as every year does, has its ups and downs. I certainly have had my own personal share of the ups and downs, but I think for me this year, this is a really interesting question, and I hope I'm not getting too deep into my own, life philosophy and things with my answer.
But
a
real moment, listener.
Yeah, right. This is a real time. No, we're off book now. I keep for the last couple of years, I've kept a journal. I had a friend that was like, just semi-daily journaling is like really great, just like as a mental health exercise. And so I took that to heart and started keeping sort of just like a semi-daily journal. I think this most recent one is my favorite because I finally bought a book that doesn't have any dates on it. So there's sort of no pressure to say like, oh, you have to write every day.
Yeah, good point.
But it is nice to sort of just be able to write things down. And often, like, I've found that what I'll do is I'll sort of like pick like a soft theme that I want to abide by for the year, say. And so the theme, here's the book. It's all gross and has stickers on it at this point. But the theme
it's an absolutely
is,
disgusting book, listeners. No.
I don't even know if you can read this, but it just says a year in pursuit of uncomfortable change. So that's what I decided 2024 was going to be. So much of my year actually has been sort of jumping into things that I am like a little bit uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
In sort of the hopes that like sometimes, we got to jump in and see what that's about. And so I think this year has been uncomfortable in the best way and led to so many like new, beautiful experiences and like new friends. And so I look back on this year personally, fondly in discomfort, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I it's one of those things that I hope to carry on now for many years to come, that I think I've learned a lot from sort of the inherent bravery that you have to take on to do these uncomfortable things, that it's been quite positive for me. And so I look forward to bringing that into the next year and continuing to, again, do the work that I really have come to love and surround myself with the people that I have really come to love in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, that is a great place to end.
Lovely. The year 2024, the year of discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone, It's a Wonderful Life at Hedgerow Theater. You got to get online and get those tickets. It's Hedgerow Theater with a RE.org. This production is running through December, so go ahead and get tickets and buy more than one, because theater is more fun. Down. Theater's more fun with a +1.
That's what I'm saying. Come on, bring all your friends, bring your family. I'll shout you out. Don't worry. And when you get to the Mr. Power line, stand up, say it with me. That way I'll know you
go. And it's a great cast, great ensemble, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Really a wonderful group. And Pete Pryor as a director. Again, I've worked with him as an actor, but he's fantastic as well. So
absolutely.
It's a good team.
Well, Tyler, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, and
thank you for having me,
being the ambassador for Hedgerow in this conversation.
Happy to be one.
Yeah. Looking forward to the show. I have to pick my dates, but once we do that, I'll let you know.
Let me know. Let me know when you're coming so I can at least look for you in the crowd.
Absolutely. Great. So thanks for joining me today. It was truly a pleasure. And everybody get out there and get those tickets. Thank you to our guest, Tyler S. Elliott, for joining us on today's podcast. The Broad Street Review podcast is an Emory production. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, visit us online at em3ry.com. Get involved with Broad Street Review. Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Donate to find out how. There you can also find our social media links. Thank you for your part in keeping the conversation going.